This episode is brought to you by City Connections and Trump Mortgage.
Good day. I'm Abby Overton, and this is The Real Deal. The mayor signs controversial legislation, bonus money starts to seep into the real estate market, mortgage rates going up again, MetLife signs a monster of a new lease on 6th Avenue, and REITs continue their winning streak. This and much more. Now to our top stories. A new law signed by Mayor Bloomberg aims to stimulate affordable housing development and reduce developers' use of the 421A tax abatement. The mayor signed the 421A legislation, which was prepped by the City Council last week. The bill extends the reach of the 421A tax abatement program that was created in 1971 to spur new residential development, so it includes more areas in Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. To qualify for 421A tax breaks, a developer must now set aside 20% of their on-site units for low and middle-income residents. The law also stipulates that only the first $65,000 of the market value of any apartment will be tax exempt. As a result of this decision and a less frenzied condo market, experts believe that land prices could fall by 20 to 30% over the next year. Metropolitan Life Insurance says it has signed a lease for 12 floors at 1095 Avenue of the Americas, or 410,000 square feet of space. The deal marks MetLife's reverse exodus from its current base of operations in Long Island City. MetLife plans to relocate most of its employees to the Bryant Park area space by 2008. Residential brokers are starting to see the effects of Wall Street bonuses, particularly in the luxury housing market. Brokers say interest has spiked in prohibitively priced Manhattan properties, East Hampton vacation houses, and starter apartments in the $1 to $3 million range. Over the past few weeks, properties like the Richard Meier-designed 165 Charles Street received a boost, with the building's last 4 apartments selling. 2 development proposals for West Houston's Pier 40 have been announced. One proposal, which is a joint venture of the related companies Cirque du Soleil and the Tribeca Film Festival, aims to turn the site into the Pier 40 Performing Arts Center. The other proposal, from Urban Dove and Camp Group, is called Pier 40 The People's Pier, and it primarily consists of a sports facility. The proposals are in response to an RFP issued by the Hudson River Park Trust, which wants Pier 40 to generate revenues for the underdeveloped Hudson River Park. The trust is set to pick a developer by mid-February, but people involved say that's quite unlikely. The State Attorney General's office ordered Pinnacle Group to hire an accounting firm to review their lease transactions over the past 4 years on rent-stabilized apartments. The audit will seek to determine whether Pinnacle overcharged tenants. Pinnacle, which has purchased an estimated $1 billion in Upper Manhattan and Bronx property over the past few years, has been widely criticized as a negligent landlord that has unfairly raised rents for many tenants. Empire State Development Corp. Chairman Charles Gargano asked U.S. postal officials yesterday to grant an extension on the state's window of opportunity to purchase the James A. Farley Post Office at 421 8th Avenue. The state plans to transform the post office into the proposed Moynihan train station, which would link to Penn Station. New York currently has until December 31st to acquire the property, but has only raised $50 million towards the post office's $230 million price tag. Developers have purchased Spring Creek Gardens, a 582-unit affordable housing complex in Brooklyn's East New York, for $18.3 million. The Archer and Domain companies plan to do $51.7 million worth of renovations to the property and preserve the units as affordable housing through tax-exempt bond financing provided by the New York City Housing Development Corp. The news comes hot on the heels of the announcement that Starrett City's owners will sell their 6,000-unit East New York property, which is also an affordable housing complex. New lease signings at the Brooklyn Navy Yard have brought the 300-acre industrial park to 99% capacity. Over the past year, nearly 30 new businesses took space at the site, and over 230 businesses now operate out of the park. Tenant interest in the Navy Yard has increased since plans to expand the property were announced. Department of Buildings figures show that the number of new building permits in Staten Island fell by 44% in November, down to 754. This has been the largest decline in all 5 boroughs. The slowdown is attributed to the weakening residential market, rezoning in that borough, and the loss of a tax abatement program on new construction. Although the Atlantic Yards project got a green light from the state last week, the latest controversy surrounding the massive stadium and housing complex centers around security cameras that developer Bruce Ratner has installed on the 22-acre Brooklyn site. With 15% of the buildings on the site still occupied or owned by people who refuse to sell to the developer, area holdouts claim the cameras are unnecessary and violate their privacy. Amenity-light hotels, such as Hampton Inn and Holiday Inn Express, have been expanding in urban centers like New York, where they stand in stark contrast to luxury full-service hotels. One hotel developer, the Philadelphia-based Hersha Group, has opened 4 limited-service hotels in Manhattan in the past few years, including Chelsea's Hampton Inn, and plans to open 9 more in the city over the next 3 years. As first reported by the New York Post, Oakwood Corporate Housing leased most of a 9-story Herald Square building and plans to transform it into 68 extended stay units. The office building at 1265 Broadway was in the midst of a condo conversion. Oakwood intends to open the property by June of this year. Work is expected to begin this year on a $200 million mixed-use project in Jamaica, Queens that will have 350 co-op and rental units. Most of the units will be set aside for lower-income and middle-class residents. The property will also have 40,000 square feet of retail space and 20,000 square feet set aside for community groups. Sources say developer Thor Equities will buy Coney Island's Gargiulo's restaurant, which has been in business since 1903, in order to relocate the establishment a few blocks away. Thor plans to redevelop a large swath of Coney Island by building hotels, housing, and a new amusement park. Real estate investment funds saw a return of 30% over the last year and are now the best-performing stock category for a number of performance periods. The outlook for REITs looks good for 2007 also, buoyed by bullish projections for rental markets and occupancy rates. Freddie Mac and Bankrate.com reported that mortgage rates rose for a 3rd straight week. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage crept from 6.13% to 6.18% over the last week, and the 15-year fixed-rate mortgage went from 5.89% to 5.93%, according to Freddie Mac's data. The uptick is attributed to reports saying that home sales had increased nationally and consumer spending that was more robust than forecasted. Another sign of the market uptick, the National Association of Realtors reported that sales of previously owned homes rose 0.6% last month over October as median sales prices decreased. The median sales price in the Northeast on existing homes dropped 2.2%. Prudential Financial will likely buy the naming rights for the new Devils Stadium in Newark, which is set to open in October. The stadium would be named the Prudential Center. Signage rates at the complex are said to be going for $5 to $6 million a year. Grubb & Ellis is folding Perot & Associates LLC into its project management division. The move follows Grubb's other attempts this year to strengthen its New York presence via new hires. Finally, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development announced it would be giving out grants nationwide to improve computer access in public housing developments. New York housing authorities are receiving the largest state grant, $1.8 million. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Real Deals webcast. Please join us next week for the latest real estate news. I'm Abby Overton, and this is The Real Deal.